The laugh cut through the arena louder than the music. Not nervous laughter. Not playful banter. It was sharp, mocking, deliberate, and it echoed at the worst possible moment, just as Ronda Rousey stepped into the cage. The cameras were already rolling. The lights were blinding. The tension was thick enough to taste. And from the commentary desk, one voice leaned too far into arrogance. "She looks tense tonight." The commentator chuckled into the mic. Maybe the pressure's finally catching up. A few forced laughs followed in the booth. The crowd didn't laugh. They felt it. Because this wasn't analysis. It was dismissal. Ronda didn't look toward the desk. Didn't flinch. Didn't react. She paced once along the edge of the octagon, jaw set, shoulders loose, breathing steady. The kind of steady that doesn't come from calm. It comes from control. Across from her, her opponent bounced lightly, trying to look relaxed. But even from a distance, you could see the micro-hesitations. The extra swallow. The overactive blinking. The laugh from the booth replayed on the giant screens. The production team had accidentally caught it live before muting. The crowd murmured. They knew what they'd just witnessed. Disrespect. The referee brought both fighters to the center. Final instructions. Gloves up. Eyes locked. The commentator's voice returned, still light. "Well, we'll see if she can handle the heat." That line hung in the air. The bell rang, and the entire arena inhaled at once. Round one began with silence. Not from the audience, but from Ronda. She didn't rush. Didn't explode forward like the highlight reels. She stepped left. Measured. Her opponent feinted right. Ronda didn't bite. Another feint. Still nothing. Then, a blink. Not from Ronda. From the opponent. That's all it took. Ronda closed distance like gravity had shifted. One step. Two. Her hands snapped up, clinch secured before the opponent could reset her stance. The crowd gasped. This wasn't wild aggression. It was surgical. The commentator's tone shifted slightly. "Well, that's a strong tie-up." He didn't finish the sentence. Because Ronda pivoted, hip placement flawless, torque perfect, and the world tilted. The throw wasn't flashy. It was devastating. Her opponent hit the mat with a crack that silenced every stray whisper in the arena. The laugh was gone. The commentary desk went quiet for half a second too long. On the canvas, Ronda transitioned instantly. No wasted motion. Wrist control. Shoulder pressure. Her opponent tried to scramble. Too late. The arm was isolated. The entire crowd recognized the setup at the same time. A wave of realization moved like electricity through the seats. No, not this fast. The commentator tried to recover. "She's looking for the armbar." But his voice had changed. It wasn't amused anymore. It was tight. Ronda adjusted her grip. Legs swung over. Hips extended. The tap came almost immediately. 3 sharp slaps against the mat. The referee dove in. It was over. Round 1. For a moment, there was no sound. Shock does that. It steals noise before it allows it to return. Then the arena erupted. Not gradual applause. An explosion. Because what they had just witnessed wasn't just a victory. It was a correction. The commentator cleared his throat. "Well, that was decisive." Understatement of the year. The replay rolled instantly. Slow motion, different angles. The clinch. The pivot. The slam. The seamless transition. It looked even faster on replay. Even more inevitable. The laugh from earlier resurfaced in people's minds, but now it sounded smaller. Embarrassed. Ronda stood, breathing steady again. No wild celebration. No screaming. Just a nod. The referee raised her hand. She didn't look at the booth. Didn't gesture. Didn't acknowledge the mockery. She simply walked toward the edge of the cage and rested her forearms on the padding, scanning the crowd. The respect in their faces said enough. Back at the commentary desk, producers were whispering urgently through headsets. "Keep it professional. Don't reference the earlier comment. Shift tone." But tone doesn't shift that easily. Not after being publicly corrected in under 3 minutes. The interviewer climbed into the cage. "Ronda, that was one of the fastest finishes we've seen this season. What was your mindset going into this fight?" She took the mic calmly. "My mindset," she repeated. A slight pause. "To listen." The crowd leaned in. "I heard everything. Not angry. Not bitter. Just factual. And I let it focus me." Somewhere in the front row, a young girl wearing a replica fight shirt stared up at her like she'd just witnessed something mythic. Because this wasn't about silencing one voice. It was about responding the right way. With skill. With precision. With undeniable proof. Back at the desk, The commentator finally addressed it, indirectly. Well, sometimes athletes answer criticism the best way possible. His co-host nodded slowly. In the cage. The fight would go viral within minutes. Clips titled, "She heard him. Laugh first. Regret later." Round 1 silence. But inside the arena, in that immediate aftermath, it wasn't about social media. It was about atmosphere. The energy had shifted from doubt to awe. You could feel it in the way people were standing now instead of sitting. In the way conversations had stopped mid-sentence. In the way even the arena staff seemed slower, more deliberate, like they understood they had just witnessed something that demanded respect. Up in the commentary booth, the air felt heavier. The same desk, the same microphones, but not the same confidence. The commentator who had laughed earlier adjusted his headset, buying himself a second. Well, he began carefully. That's why she's one of the most dangerous competitors in combat sports. No one laughed this time, because now it sounded like correction. On the giant screen, they replayed the sequence again. The timing, the entry, the rotation of the hips, the flawless extension. Frame by frame, it became obvious. This wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was preparation meeting opportunity. Ronda hadn't rushed to prove a point. She'd simply been ready when the moment arrived. Backstage, her opponent sat on a stool, ice pack pressed against her elbow, staring at the floor. Not broken, not humiliated, just stunned. That was fast, a trainer muttered. The opponent nodded slowly. She didn't waste a second, she said quietly. That was the part that lingered. Not the strength, the efficiency. Meanwhile, social feeds were exploding. Clips were already circulating with captions dissecting the pre-fight laughter and contrasting it with the outcome. The timeline told its own story. Mockery, bell, silence. In under 3 minutes, Ronda stepped into the hallway leading to the locker rooms. The noise from the arena dulled into a low roar behind concrete walls. Sweat cooled against her skin. Her coach met her halfway down the corridor. "You didn't rush," he said simply. She shook her head. "Didn't need to." He smiled faintly. That was the growth. Years ago, she might have stormed forward fueled by emotion. Tonight, she'd moved like someone who understood that control intimidates more than fury ever could. Back inside the arena, the commentator cleared his throat again. "In fairness," he said, choosing his words cautiously, "anytime you're facing someone with that level of grappling pedigree, you can't blink." It was the closest thing to an admission he could manage. His co-host didn't rescue him. He let the silence sit for a second longer than comfortable, because the audience had already made up its mind. The post-fight interview aired again on the big screen. "I heard everything," she had said. Those 3 words carried weight now, not as a threat, as awareness. The crowd began chanting her name, rhythmic, unified, rising in volume. It wasn't about defending her honor. It was about acknowledging mastery. In the production truck outside, executives reviewed the opening segment. One of them shook his head. "We should have cut that laugh," he muttered. Another producer leaned back. "No," she replied. That made the story, because now the narrative was complete. Doubt voiced publicly. Skill displayed immediately. Silence enforced naturally. A security staff member who had been stationed near the commentary desk glanced up at the booth. The commentator avoided eye contact with anyone. Not out of shame exactly, but out of recalibration. He understood something now. When you question someone at that level, you better be prepared for the answer. And sometimes the answer comes faster than your next sentence. Back in her locker room, Ronda finally sat down. Gloves off, wraps being peeled carefully from her knuckles. The adrenaline had faded into a steady hum. Her phone buzzed on the bench beside her. Messages stacked quickly. "Proud of you." That was cold. Round 1. Seriously? She didn't open them yet. She stared at her reflection in the mirror instead. Not smiling. Not smirking. Just composed. A young staff assistant knocked lightly on the door. "Media wants a follow-up question," she said. "About the commentary." Ronda considered it, then stood. When she returned to the media area, the room quieted instantly. Reporters leaned forward. Cameras adjusted. One journalist asked it directly. "Did the laughter motivate you?" Ronda tilted her head slightly. "No," she answered. The room stilled. "Preparation motivated me." A pause. People talk. That's their job. Another pause. "Winning is mine." Pins scratched furiously. No anger. No callouts. Just clarity. Later that night, the commentator sat alone in the nearly empty arena, scrolling through reaction clips. The moment of laughter replayed in his mind louder than it had in real time. It hadn't sounded malicious to him at the time. Just a casual jab. A throwaway line. But tonight it had become the setup to someone else's punchline. He sighed. Lesson learned. Outside, fans spilled into the streets, still buzzing. Did you see that throw? She didn't even hesitate. That arm bar was instant. The story was already cemented. Not because someone got embarrassed, but because someone got corrected with excellence. Back at the hotel, Ronda finally lay back against crisp white sheets, staring at the ceiling. The arena lights were gone now. The chants faded. The noise replaced by quiet. She closed her eyes. Tomorrow, someone else would doubt. Someone else would analyze. Someone else would question. That's how it works. But tonight, the transition from doubt to awe had been undeniable. And the loudest moment of the evening wasn't the laugh, wasn't even the submission. It was the silence in between, when everyone realized they had underestimated her.